Hello, dear students. I, Miss Archana Gawale, welcome you all to the e-learning platform of Maratha Vidya Prasarak Samaj, KRT Arts, BH Commerce, and AM Science College, Nasik. Dear students, today we will study the subject Elements of Company Law for the class SY BCom Semester 4. In my previous video, we studied about managing director, whole-time director, and manager. We also studied the difference between them. In today's lecture, we are going to focus on company secretary. Also, we are going to study the meaning and definition of company secretary and also the duties and role of company secretary. In company form of organization, secretary plays a vital role. Initially, the secretary to the board of directors was supposed to look after the routine and procedural matter of the company. A company secretary is an individual who is an approved member of Institute of Company Secretary of India and performs functions defined by the institute and follows rules and regulation defined under the Companies Act in operation. First, we will try to understand the meaning of secretary. So, secretary is considered as a person who normally assists his boss. With his efficient work, he can relieve substantial burden of workload of his boss. He can look after the routine work of a business. He can save the time of his boss by reducing the work such as taking telephone calls, interacting with the visitors, and screening and filtering the papers before presenting them before the boss. This is the typical kind of the task to be performed by a secretary. An efficient secretary can increase the efficiency and performance of his boss. The same is applicable in the company form of organization. The secretary plays a vital role. Initially, the secretary to the board of directors was supposed to look after the routine and procedural matters of the company. His duties include organizing meetings, keeping minutes of such meetings, and also preparing records of the members. Definition of Company Secretary. Section 224. Company Secretary or Secretary means Company Secretary as defined in Clause C of subsection 1 of Section 2 Company Secretary Act 1980, who is appointed by a company to perform the function of Company Secretary under the Act. This definition means that the person who is appointed to perform the work of company secretary or secretary is known as company secretary. The Companies Act 2013 does not clearly define the term company secretary. So we have to look to the Company Secretary Act 1980 for the definition of company secretary. As per Section 2(1)(c) of the Company Secretary Act 1980, Company Secretary means a person who is a member of the Institute of Company Secretary of India. So, to become a company secretary, one need to take the membership of the Institute of Company Secretary of India, and he should also clear all the examinations conducted by this institute and undergo the specific training. Under the Companies Act 2013, company secretary is considered as a key managerial personnel. Duties of company secretary. First point, compliance regarding registration. Company secretary has to sign a declaration that all the requirements of the act and rules have been compiled with regard to the registration of the company. Such declaration can be signed by the secretary. Second point, signing share certificate. Share certificate is required to be signed by two directors, out of which one should be the managing director or full-time director if applicable, and the secretary or any other person authorized by the board. Third point, representing the company. A company secretary can represent and appear before the National Company Law Tribunal, that is NCLT, on behalf of the company. Fourth, authentication of document. As per section 21 of the Act, authentication of the document on behalf of the company or contract made by or on behalf of the company can be signed by the KMP or other authorized officers or the secretary. Fifth point, authentication of financial statement. As per section 134 of the Act, the financial statements has to be signed by the chairperson or by two directors, out of which one should be a managing director, CEO if he is directed, CEO and company secretary, whatever whoever they are appointed. Role of company secretary. First, corporate governance services, advising on good governance practices and compliance of corporate governance norms as prescribed under various corporate securities and other business laws and regulation and guidelines made thereunder. Company secretary is the custodian of corporate records, statutory books, and register of company. Second, corporate laws related advisory services. Company secretary will have to advise companies on compliance of legal and procedural aspects, particularly under CB Act. Third, arbitration and conciliation services, advising on arbitration, negotiation, conciliation in commercial disputes between the parties, acting as arbitrator or conciliator in domestic and international or commercial disputes, drafting arbitration and conciliation agreement. Management, next point, management services. Company secretary has to advise on corporate social responsibility, participating in formulation of business policy, strategy, and planning formulation of organizational structure. acting as management representative to obtain ISO certificate, advising on sustainability, accounting, and reporting. Next, tax related services. Company secretary provides advisory, compliance for tax management and tax planning under income tax, excise, and custom law, service tax, VAT, etc. Preparing various returns and reports required for the compliance with the law, rules, and regulations. Next point, security compliance services. Company secretary has to see compliance of rules and regulations in the security market, such as internal audit of depository participants, internal audit of stock brokerage trading, members clearing, members certificate, etc. Thank you.